5 Reasons Why Nothing is Truly Lost. Buddhist View on Impermanence. In the vast expanse of existence, nothing is ever truly lost. The Buddhist understanding of impermanence reveals that all forms, feelings, and experiences are in constant transformation, arising, changing, dissolving, and arising again in new forms. This truth invites us to look beyond the surface of loss, beyond attachment to things, people, or moments, and to perceive the continuity of life that never ceases. In Buddhism, impermanence is not a curse. It is the rhythm of the universe itself, the pulse of birth, decay, and rebirth that keeps the cosmos alive and evolving. To understand impermanence is to see the world not as something slipping away, but as something constantly becoming. When we lose someone, when a chapter closes, or when a dream fades, the natural reaction of the human heart is to resist. We grasp, we mourn, and we long for permanence. But from the Buddhist view, this grasping is the very root of our suffering. The Buddha taught that everything that arises from conditions is destined to pass away when those conditions change. The beauty of life lies not in clinging to what we have, but in learning to flow with its ceaseless unfolding. Through impermanence, we are constantly invited to let go, to awaken, and to rediscover the sacred truth that no experience is ever wasted and no love ever truly disappears. This journey through impermanence will unfold across 5 profound reflections, each revealing how nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. By understanding these truths, you will begin to release the fear of endings, the sorrow of loss, and the illusion of separation. You will begin to see life as a continuous flow, where every ending is a beginning in disguise, and every moment holds within it the seed of renewal. The energy of life never ceases, it only changes form. In the Buddhist understanding, life is a seamless flow of energy, a current that manifests in infinite expressions, from the birth of a star to the falling of a leaf. What appears to vanish merely shifts shape. The physical dissolves, but the essence remains, moving, merging, and reappearing. This is the law of impermanence intertwined with the law of interdependence, pratyāsamutpada. Everything that exists arises through causes and conditions, and when those conditions shift, the manifestation changes, but the energy continues. To say that nothing is truly lost is to recognize that what you love, what you once held close, still exists, but not in the same form. The laughter that once filled your home now echoes in your memory. The love you gave to someone long gone continues as the compassion you extend to others. The teachings of the Buddha remind us that existence is a dance of form and formlessness. We are not static entities, but dynamic expressions of consciousness, moment to moment. When one wave breaks, it becomes part of the ocean again. So too do we return to the vastness from which we arose. This is why the Buddha encouraged detachment, not as cold indifference, but as clear seeing. To cling to one form of existence is to deny the boundless creativity of the universe. When we accept that energy transforms, we no longer mourn its passing, we marvel at its continuity. The pain of losing something or someone stems from the illusion that existence is fixed. In truth, the beloved continues in new ways, as inspiration, as memory, as unseen presence. Just as fire changes wood to flame, flame to smoke, smoke to air, everything transforms yet remains within the cycle of being. When you observe a flower wilting, you are witnessing a sacred process. Its decay nourishes the soil, which gives rise to new life. The same principle governs our emotional and spiritual world. The heartbreak that once shattered you becomes the soil for compassion. The disappointment that once burned you becomes the fire of wisdom. The ending of one dream makes space for another to unfold. Through impermanence, the universe recycles all experiences, ensuring that nothing is ever truly wasted. Many fear change because they equate it with loss. But impermanence is not an enemy. It is the teacher that shows us how to love without clinging, how to live without fear, and how to let go without despair. The first noble truth of existence, that life contains suffering, is intertwined with the recognition that all suffering arises from attachment to what must change. When we release this attachment, what once caused pain becomes liberation. In meditation, when the mind quiets and the flow of thoughts dissolves, there is a glimpse of this truth. You feel the impermanent nature of every breath, arising, staying, fading, and arising again. You see that nothing needs to be grasped. You begin to understand that you, too, are part of this rhythm, neither separate nor static, but flowing endlessly. The awareness of this truth transforms the fear of death, the sorrow of endings, and the longing for permanence into serene understanding. The energy that animates your body, your thoughts, and your emotions has been flowing through countless forms before you and will continue after you. The molecules in your body were once part of the stars, the rivers, and the trees. You are not a separate entity, but a momentary expression of the cosmos, remembering itself. To grasp this is to awaken from the illusion of loss and to rest in the peace of continuity. So when something leaves your life, a person, a moment, a version of yourself, know this: it has not vanished. It has merely returned to the flow. It is becoming something else, somewhere else, in ways you may never see. The Buddha said, "Nothing ever exists entirely alone. Everything is in relation to everything else. What you perceive as an ending is simply one part of an eternal relationship transforming into another. When you begin to live with this awareness, gratitude replaces grief. Every goodbye becomes sacred. Every change becomes holy. You stop asking why things end and start bowing to the miracle that they ever began. This understanding is not abstract. It is profoundly practical. It softens your heart, lightens your burdens, and gives you courage to live fully, knowing that even the moments you lose are part of a greater unfolding. Every loss, every death, every change is a reminder that life is not about holding on, but about participating in the flow. When you see through the illusion of permanence, you stop fearing impermanence. You see that it is the very thing that makes life precious, that gives meaning to every breath. Impermanence does not steal. It gives us the chance to love deeply, to live presently, and to let go gracefully. Remember, nothing that truly belongs to you can ever be lost, because in the deepest sense, nothing is separate from you. All forms are waves upon the same ocean of being. The wave may fall, but the ocean remains. The energy continues. The love remains. The essence flows on. If this reflection speaks to your soul and helps you see life from a new, liberating perspective, take a moment to support this journey of awareness, subscribe to the channel, and continue exploring the timeless wisdom of the Buddha with us. The illusion of loss. How attachment creates suffering loss, as we perceive it, is one of the deepest illusions of the human mind. From the Buddhist view, nothing in existence can be truly lost, because nothing ever truly belongs to us. Everything we encounter, people, possessions, emotions, even the body we inhabit, is borrowed from the flow of life. They arise within our experience and pass through it like clouds across the sky. Yet because of ignorance, avidya, the human mind clings to the impermanent as if it were permanent, and in that clinging, suffering is born. The Buddha identified this attachment, upadana, as the root of all human pain. To see through the illusion of loss is to free ourselves from the endless cycle of craving, disappointment, and sorrow. When we lose someone we love, it feels as though something essential has been torn from us. The mind screams that something precious has been taken away. But from the lens of impermanence, that loss is not an act of cruelty. It is the natural continuation of change. The person we loved was never static, never fixed. They, like us, were passing through this experience of being, temporarily sharing form, breath, and consciousness. To grieve is human, but to awaken is to understand that what we called mine was never truly ours. The one we love returns to the same source we all come from, the same vast awareness that gives rise to all things. Nothing is lost. It simply shifts from form to formlessness. Attachment creates suffering because it insists on freezing the flow of life. It demands permanence in a world that is defined by change. The more tightly we hold on to what must transform, the greater our pain when it inevitably does. Yet, the solution is not to stop loving, it is to love differently. The Buddha taught a form of love, free from attachment, metta, or loving kindness. True love, from the enlightened perspective, does not say, "I love you because you are mine." It says, "I love you because you are." It honors the freedom of all beings to come and go, to live, to die, to transform. Such love does not bind, it liberates. The illusion of loss arises because we identify ourselves with temporary things. We say, "My life, my body, my relationships, my success." But what is the "my" that owns them? When we examine deeply, we find that the self we think of as I is itself impermanent, a bundle of thoughts, sensations, and perceptions constantly changing. There is no solid core, no unchanging entity at the center of it all. The Buddha called this anatta, the truth of non-self. Once we realize this, the notion of loss begins to dissolve. How can something be lost when there was never a fixed owner to begin with? Imagine your life as a river. The waters that pass today are not the same as those that flowed yesterday, and yet you still call it the same river. You are not the same person you were a year ago, not even the same person you were this morning. Every cell, every thought, every emotion is in motion. When we lose something, it is as if one part of that river has flowed out of view. But the river itself continues, and the waters of what was lost merge with the great ocean of existence. The tragedy of life is not that things change, but that we resist that change. The miracle is that change allows everything to be renewed again and again. Suffering deepens when we attach our identity to our losses. We begin to say, "I am broken, I am incomplete, I will never recover." But these are stories of the mind, attempts to make sense of impermanence through the language of possession. In truth, the one who feels broken is itself a temporary construction. Beneath the waves of emotion lies a vast stillness, the awareness that observes it all. When we rest in that awareness, the intensity of loss softens. We begin to see that what we lost was only a form, a configuration of conditions. The essence remains, and that essence cannot be destroyed. The Buddha compared human clinging to grasping a burning coal. We hold on tightly, thinking it gives us warmth when in reality it burns us. The coal of attachment scorches the heart with fear, fear of losing, fear of change, fear of death. We try to control life, but control is an illusion. Life flows regardless of our grasping. The moment we open our hand, the pain lessens, and we begin to participate in the flow rather than fight against it. Detachment is not indifference. It is love purified from fear. When we believe something is lost, what we are truly mourning is the image we created of it. Memory becomes an altar where the mind worships the past. But the past, like everything else, exists only as a thought in the present. We can honor the memory without being enslaved by it. The Buddha did not teach us to forget, but to see clearly. To see that clinging to memory creates sorrow, while awareness transforms memory into wisdom. Every loss, when seen through this lens, becomes a teacher. It shows us where we were attached, where we confused the impermanent for the eternal. Consider a tree shedding its leaves. To the leaf, falling might seem like the end. To the tree, it is renewal. To the forest, it is nourishment. Nothing is truly lost. It simply changes its role in the symphony of existence. Likewise, when you let go of someone or something, or even a version of yourself, you are not diminishing. You are evolving. Each letting go makes space for the next unfolding of your life. This is the secret rhythm of impermanence, destruction and creation dancing as one. Many of us try to fill the void left by loss with new attachments, new relationships, new possessions, new distractions, but this only perpetuates the cycle of suffering. The mind that constantly seeks to replace is the mind that cannot rest. True peace arises not from replacing what was lost, but from realizing that nothing was missing in the first place. The awareness that experiences both gain and loss remains untouched by either. It is the silent witness within, the pure consciousness that does not come or go. To rest in that awareness is to awaken to freedom. Meditation reveals this directly. When you sit in silence and observe the arising and passing of thoughts, you begin to notice that loss and gain are merely movements in the field of awareness. One moment a thought arises, the next it fades. You do not lose the thought, it simply dissolves. The space remains. Similarly, when experiences pass through your life, they leave no permanent wound unless you resist their departure. When you allow them to come and go freely, you remain whole, undisturbed. Zareen, the mind's greatest illusion is separation. We believe we are separate from what we lose, separate from those we love, separate from the world around us. But from the Buddhist perspective, separation is a mirage. Interbeing, the truth that all things exist in dependence upon everything else, means that nothing can be isolated. The air you breathe once moved through the lungs of others. The water you drink once nourished the roots of ancient trees. Every particle of your being is intertwined with the universe. When something leaves your life, it doesn't truly go anywhere. It changes its relationship to you. To understand this is to dissolve the illusion of loss. Your loved ones, your experiences, your past selves, they all continue, not as static forms, but as ripples in the vast sea of existence. The sound of a bell fades, yet its vibration lingers in the air and in the heart that heard it. The same is true of every moment of beauty, love, and truth you have ever known. They are not gone. They live within the continuum of being, shaping who you are, shaping the world, shaping the unseen. Letting go in this light is not an act of despair, but of deep faith, faith that existence knows what it's doing, faith that transformation is never destruction, faith that when something ends, something else is already beginning. The Buddha did not ask us to reject the world, but to see it clearly, to see its impermanence as its perfection. When you truly see impermanence, you no longer demand permanence. You begin to appreciate the sacredness of every fleeting moment. Each encounter becomes a gift, each breath a miracle. Loss, when understood, becomes a doorway to compassion. When you have faced your own suffering with awareness, you become tender toward the suffering of others. You realize that all beings struggle with change, all beings fear separation. This shared vulnerability unites us. Compassion, karuna, arises naturally when we see that behind every attachment is the same longing for permanence, the same misunderstanding of reality. When you live with this compassion, even grief becomes an offering of understanding, presence, and love without conditions. To dissolve the illusion of loss is to awaken to the boundless flow of life. When you realize that nothing can truly be taken from you, gratitude blossoms effortlessly. You begin to bless the changes, thank the endings, and trust the unfolding. You stop trying to possess life, and instead allow life to pass through you. In doing so, you discover the deepest truth of the Buddhist path. Freedom is not found in controlling the world, but in releasing your grasp on it. The illusion of loss ends when we awaken to what never changes, the stillness beneath the waves, the awareness that watches everything come and go. This awareness is not touched by time, by birth, or by death. It is the one thing that is not impermanent, yet it exists only through impermanence's play. It is the silent observer that remains when all forms dissolve. When you recognize this within yourself, the fear of loss fades. You realize that you are not the form, not the possession, not even the person who loses. You are the space through which all experiences flow. And so, when the next change comes, when something or someone dear to you fades from view, take a breath and remember, nothing is truly lost. The river continues, the song changes, but the silence beneath remains eternal. What leaves your sight may still live in another form beyond your understanding. To see this is to live free, with an open heart, in harmony with all that comes and goes. If this reflection has helped you find peace in the face of change and reminded you of the truth that nothing is ever truly lost, take a moment to support the message of inner awakening. Subscribe to the channel and continue walking this path of Buddhist wisdom with us. The continuity of existence. How every ending is a beginning. To see the world through the lens of impermanence is to perceive the continuous movement of life, a sacred unfolding where every ending gives birth to something new. The Buddha taught that nothing arises independently. All phenomena exist in an intricate web of causes and conditions. When one condition ceases, another arises in its place. This is not random, but an expression of perfect interdependence, a cosmic rhythm that ensures the eternal renewal of all things. What we perceive as endings are, in truth, transitions, moments when the visible gives way to the invisible, when one form dissolves so another can emerge. The continuity of existence is the great reassurance that nothing is ever lost. It only changes its expression. This understanding changes everything. The grief that once felt unbearable becomes a quiet reverence. The anxiety of uncertainty becomes a trust in life's unfolding. Every death, physical, emotional, or symbolic, becomes a teacher, guiding us to look beyond appearances. The Buddha did not ask us to deny pain or dismiss sorrow. He invited us to see their place in the great flow. Each ending carries within it a seed of transformation, waiting for the right conditions to bloom. Like a forest fire that seems to destroy, only to prepare the soil for new growth, the losses in our lives create the space where renewal can occur. Consider a candle flame, lighting another. The first flame passes on its light and eventually extinguishes, yet the fire continues, carried by the next candle and the next, endlessly. This is the cycle of existence, the flame of consciousness passing from one form to another. In Buddhism, this is reflected in the teaching of rebirth, not in the narrow sense of an individual soul jumping from body to body, but as the continuous unfolding of cause and effect, of karma and consciousness. The energy of your actions, your thoughts, your love. They do not vanish when you die. They ripple outward, influencing lives, shaping futures, continuing the story of existence long after your form dissolves. The continuity of existence also applies to the smaller deaths we face each day. The end of a relationship, the loss of a dream, the closing of a chapter. Each of these endings carries the same potential for renewal. When you lose something, you're not moving toward emptiness. You are moving toward transformation. The grief you feel is the body and mind adjusting to the new shape of your life. If you resist, you suffer. If you surrender, you evolve. The Buddha taught that clinging to the old prevents us from welcoming the new. Only through acceptance can we experience the full flow of life's continuity. Impermanence means that nothing remains the same, but it also means that nothing ever truly disappears. The rain that falls today will rise again as vapor, return as clouds, and fall once more as rain. The body that returns to dust nourishes the earth, giving birth to new life. The words you speak, the kindness you offer, the compassion you extend, they move through unseen channels, touching hearts you may never meet. Every act, every breath, every thought participates in the infinite exchange of being. You are part of this continuum, and so nothing you love is ever lost. It is absorbed into the great unfolding and re-emerges in new and mysterious forms. This understanding brings peace, but it also brings responsibility. If everything continues, then every thought, word, and action matters. The energy you emit through love or anger, generosity or greed, compassion or indifference does not end with you. It becomes part of the collective flow. This is the essence of karma, not as punishment or reward, but as the natural continuity of cause and effect. What you sow in this moment shapes the next. When you realize this, you begin to live more consciously, aware that you are both inheriting and creating the unfolding of existence. The way you live now is the continuation of everything that came before and the seed of everything that will follow. The continuity of existence also teaches us to see death differently. From the Buddhist perspective, death is not annihilation, it is transformation. The fear of death arises from identifying with form, the body, the personality, the story. But the essence of what you are, the awareness behind the form, cannot die because it was never born. It is the field in which birth and death appear. When the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, what he saw was not an escape from existence, but the realization that existence itself is unbroken, eternal in its unfolding. The forms change, the expressions shift, but the essence, pure awareness, remains. Imagine the ocean. Waves rise and fall, each with its own shape, duration, and beauty. Some are fierce and high, others are gentle and small. Each wave believes itself separate, but when it dissolves back into the ocean, nothing is lost. The water remains, ready to rise again as another wave. In the same way, every being, every experience is a wave upon the ocean of existence. Death is not the end of the wave, but its return to the vastness from which it came. When you understand this, you lose the fear of endings. You see that the wave was never separate, that even as it rose and fell, it was always the ocean. The continuity of existence can also be observed in the cycle of emotions. Joy turns to sorrow, sorrow to peace, peace to longing, longing to acceptance. Each state gives rise to the next. When we cling to one, we resist the natural movement of life. But if we allow ourselves to flow with it, we begin to feel the harmony in change. Even pain becomes sacred when we understand that it is part of a larger process of awakening. Every tear waters the soil of wisdom, every struggle deepens compassion, every loss refines the heart. What looks like destruction from one perspective is creation from another. In the Buddhist tradition, the symbol of the lotus flower embodies this truth. The lotus grows in muddy water, yet its bloom is pure and radiant. Without the mud, there is no flower. Similarly, without loss, there is no awakening. Without endings, there can be no beginnings. The continuity of existence means that even the most painful experiences are not meaningless. They are part of the larger tapestry of becoming. The mud and the bloom are one. Suffering and liberation are not opposites, but phases of the same unfolding reality. When you understand this, you begin to welcome even the darkness, knowing that it too is leading you toward light. To embrace continuity is to surrender the illusion of control. We often fear the unknown, clinging to the familiar, because we believe it defines us. But the Buddhist path invites us to trust the impermanent, to recognize that life knows how to renew itself, if we stop interfering. The tree does not mourn the falling of its leaves. It trusts the rhythm of seasons. The river does not resist its bends. It flows where gravity leads. In the same way, we are invited to trust the intelligence of existence. The continuity of life is not something we need to manage. It is something we can learn to flow with. When you observe your breath, you witness this continuity firsthand. Each inhalation arises, peaks, and fades into exhalation. Each exhalation dissolves, making space for the next inhale. Life moves in this rhythm, the pause between breaths, the stillness between thoughts. This is the silent ground of being from which everything emerges. If you can rest in that stillness, you will begin to feel the unbroken continuity of existence. You will know that what dies in one form continues in another, that nothing is wasted, that everything contributes to the great harmony of becoming. In this awareness, grief transforms into gratitude. You begin to thank those who have left, not for their absence, but for their contribution to your awakening. You see that they did not disappear. They became part of your inner landscape, guiding you in unseen ways. You understand that life does not take, it only transforms. The hands you can no longer hold have not vanished. They have become the wind that touches your face, the sunlight that warms your path, the intuition that whispers in silence. The continuity of existence ensures that love, once given, never dies. It circulates through the universe, returning in ways the mind cannot predict. This understanding is not meant to be believed intellectually, but lived experientially. Through mindfulness, through stillness, through compassionate awareness, we begin to feel the pulse of continuity in everything. When you truly observe, you will notice that there is no sharp boundary between you and the world. The breath moves in and out, the senses open and close, the heart beats in rhythm with all living things. The separation between life and death, gain and loss, self and other, begins to blur. You start to see that existence is one continuous movement, endless, timeless, infinite. Every ending is the teacher that reminds you to release your grip on form and trust the formless. Every beginning is the promise that the universe never ceases to renew itself. The leaf that falls in autumn is already becoming the soil for spring. The silence that follows a farewell is already the womb of a new encounter. Nothing is wasted in the vast economy of being. Everything participates in the eternal dance of transformation. So when you find yourself standing at the edge of an ending, when a door closes, a season fades, or a part of you feels gone, remember that life never subtracts without also adding. The same force that dissolves one chapter is already writing the next. The continuity of existence ensures that even in your darkest night, the dawn is preparing its light. To live with this awareness is to live without fear. It is to walk through change with grace, knowing that the current of life is carrying you exactly where you need to go. The Buddha once said, "Just as a snake sheds its skin, we must shed our past again and again." This shedding is not a loss, but a renewal. Each time we let go, we make space for new wisdom, new love, new understanding. Continuity means that life never truly stops. It only transforms. The old self gives birth to the new. The pain gives birth to insight. The ending gives birth to beginning. This is the eternal cycle of being. Not a circle that traps, but a spiral that ascends. To embrace this truth is to live freely. You stop chasing permanence and begin to celebrate change. You no longer fear what leaves because you know it will return in another form. You no longer cling to what comes because you know it too will pass. You live with open hands and an open heart, trusting that whatever the universe takes, it also gives, sometimes in ways beyond understanding. This is the wisdom of impermanence, the freedom of letting go, the peace of knowing that nothing is ever truly lost. If these words resonate with the quiet truth within you and remind you that every ending is indeed a beginning, take a moment to support this path of awakening. Subscribe to the channel and continue discovering the profound wisdom of Buddhism with us. Letting go as a return to wholeness. Finding peace in the flow. To let go is to return home. It is the path of the Buddha's own awakening, a movement not of reaching for more, but of releasing what is false. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means seeing clearly. It is the recognition that clinging to the impermanent cannot bring lasting peace. The Buddha's realization beneath the Bodhi tree was not that he gained something new, but that he released every illusion that obscured what was always true. Letting go is not the destruction of self, but the dissolving of the walls that make you believe you are separate from the flow of existence. It is the most sacred act of trust, a surrender into the continuity of being, where nothing is lost and everything belongs. In every human life, the art of letting go is learned through loss. We let go of childhood as we step into adulthood, of relationships that no longer serve, of beliefs that no longer reflect truth. Sometimes life rips these things from our grasp, and sometimes we lay them down willingly. Either way, the lesson is the same. Clinging creates suffering. The Buddha said, "You can only lose what you cling to." Those words hold both warning and liberation. They mean that peace is not found in holding tighter, but in opening fully. When you open your hands, what leaves makes space for what is meant to arrive. Letting go begins as pain because it challenges the ego, the part of the mind that builds its identity around control. The ego believes it can secure happiness by holding on, to possessions, to people, to outcomes. But what it really secures is suffering, because it resists the nature of existence itself. Everything in this world is in motion. To cling to what moves is to be dragged by it. The river of life flows regardless of our preferences. When we resist, we are battered by the current. When we let go, we float. To let go, then, is to stop fighting the flow and begin trusting its direction. The Buddha compared clinging to grasping a rope that burns the hand. We think the rope gives us stability, but it only wounds us. The moment we release it, we realize that stability was never in the rope. It was in the ground beneath our feet. Letting go reveals that true security comes not from what we hold, but from the awareness that observes all holding. This awareness, pure, spacious, untouched, is our true refuge. When we abide in it, we can face change without fear, loss without despair, and uncertainty without anxiety. We begin to live as part of the rhythm of existence instead of standing apart from it. One of the greatest misunderstandings about letting go is that it means indifference. In truth, it is the highest form of love. To love someone without clinging is to honor their freedom. To love life without attachment is to appreciate its beauty fully. The lotus blooms only because it is not afraid of the mud. The river sings because it is not afraid of the sea. Likewise, the awakened heart sings because it no longer fears loss. When you let go, you do not stop caring. You begin to care in a way that is boundless. Love that does not say you are mine, but I see you as part of all that is. This is the essence of metta, loving kindness, the love that liberates both self and other. The act of letting go often begins in suffering, a heartbreak, a disappointment, a death. These moments strip us of illusion. They reveal how fragile our attachments are and how deeply we depend on them for identity. In grief, we meet the truth of impermanence face to face. The heart breaks, not because something ended, but because it resisted the ending. And yet, within that breaking is the seed of awakening. When you stop resisting, the heart does not remain shattered, it expands. The space that loss opens is the space where compassion grows. You begin to understand that the pain of loss is not punishment, it is purification. It burns away illusion until only truth remains. In the stillness after letting go, you may feel emptiness. This emptiness is not a void, it is vastness. It is the spacious awareness that was always there, but was hidden by attachment. The Buddha called this shunyata, emptiness not as nothingness, but as the fullness of all possibilities. When you let go of one form, you create space for infinite new forms to arise. The mind, however, fears this emptiness because it cannot control it. It fills it with stories, with regrets, with longing. The practice of mindfulness teaches us to rest in that space without filling it, to trust the silence between endings and beginnings. In that silence, we find what cannot be lost. Letting go is not something you do once. It is a lifelong practice. You let go of every moment as it passes, every breath as it leaves. You let go of expectations, judgments, resentments. Each act of release lightens the burden of existence. The Buddha taught that clinging binds us to samsara, the cycle of suffering. Each attachment becomes a chain that ties the heart to restlessness. When you loosen those chains, you begin to taste nirvana, not as a distant paradise, but as the peace of non-grasping here and now. Letting go is the bridge between suffering and freedom. To let go is also to forgive, to stop carrying the weight of anger and blame. Resentment is another form of clinging, a grasping at the past in hopes of changing what cannot be changed. The Buddha said, "Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned." Forgiveness is not condoning harm, but freeing yourself from the fire. When you forgive, you are not saying, "What happened was right." You are saying, "I choose peace over pain. I release the past to live fully in the present." Forgiveness is the ultimate act of letting go, the reclaiming of your own freedom. Letting go also means releasing the illusion of control over the future. The mind constantly projects, planning, fearing, hoping, calculating. It believes that by controlling outcomes, it can avoid pain. But life cannot be controlled, it can only be participated in. The Buddha called this the noble understanding of uncertainty. The wise do not resist change, they align with it. They see that impermanence is not chaos, but order, the perfect unfolding of cause and effect. When you release the need to control, you begin to trust the intelligence of existence. You live in harmony with the flow, rather than in battle against it. Trust becomes your practice. Serenity becomes your nature. The practice of meditation mirrors this truth perfectly. Each breath arises and fades. Each thought appears and disappears. When you cling to a thought, you suffer. When you let it pass, peace returns naturally. In that letting go, you begin to understand that life, too, is meditation, a series of arising and passing experiences. The mind's attempt to cling is what creates turbulence. When you observe without attachment, everything flows effortlessly. You become the witness rather than the prisoner of your mind. This witnessing is freedom, but letting go is not always gentle. Sometimes it feels like dying, because in a sense, it is. Each time you release attachment, a part of your false identity dissolves. The you that was built around that attachment, the role, the expectation, the story, ceases to exist. What remains is pure awareness. Stripped of decoration, raw and real, it can be terrifying, but it is also profoundly liberating. This is why in many Buddhist traditions, meditation on death is a core practice. To contemplate death daily is to prepare for life. When you accept the ultimate letting go, smaller surrenders become easy. Death is not the opposite of life, but its teacher, reminding us that everything we cling to is temporary and that the only lasting peace lies in surrender. Letting go is also an act of humility. It is admitting that we do not possess life, We participate in it. We do not own love. We experience it. We do not control time. We flow through it. The ego resists this truth because it thrives on ownership and control. But when we humble ourselves before the mystery of existence, we find joy in our smallness. We stop demanding and start receiving. We see that life has always been taking care of itself. The flower does not force itself to bloom, nor does the sun struggle to rise. Everything unfolds naturally when it does not resist its nature. Letting go allows us to align with this effortless harmony. When you live with open hands, life becomes generous. You no longer hoard experiences, people, or achievements. You give freely because you understand that what you give returns in another form. You lose fear of scarcity because you see that abundance is the nature of the flow. The more you release, the more you receive. Not because the universe rewards you, but because you stop blocking its movement. Clinging is contraction. Letting go is expansion. The open heart is vast enough to hold everything and need nothing. This is wholeness, not possessing all things, but being at peace with all things. There is a quiet power in those who have mastered the art of letting go. They walk through life without fear, not because they are detached from feeling, but because they are rooted in truth. They can love deeply without chains, give fully without expectation, and face endings without despair. Their peace does not depend on circumstance because it comes from within, from the realization that they and life are not two separate things. They have ceased to fight the current. They flow. Letting go also transforms the way we relate to time. Most suffering arises from living in the past or the future, mourning what was or fearing what will be. The present moment becomes the victim of these illusions. When we let go, we return to presence. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." In this present, there is no loss because nothing has yet passed. There is no fear because nothing has yet come. There is only being, pure, aware, alive. To let go is to live now. It is to recognize that the only reality that truly exists is this breath, this awareness, this moment. You may ask, how can one let go in a world where everything seems uncertain, where pain is inevitable? The answer lies not in avoidance, but in understanding. When you see the impermanent nature of all things, you stop trying to make them permanent. You stop asking the impossible of life. You start to appreciate its fleeting beauty instead. The cherry blossom is precious precisely because it falls. The sunset is magnificent because it fades. To love impermanence is to love life as it is, fragile, transient, but infinitely alive. Letting go does not erase the memory of what once was. It sanctifies it. It allows you to carry love without pain, to remember without longing. You no longer live in the shadow of what has passed, but in the light of what remains. Every person you have ever loved becomes part of your being, not as a wound, but as wisdom. Every loss becomes a teaching, not a punishment. Every ending becomes a bow to the mystery of existence. This is how letting go leads to wholeness, by integrating rather than erasing, by embracing rather than escaping. In the silence that follows true letting go, there is peace beyond understanding. It is the peace the Buddha called nirvana, the extinguishing of grasping, craving, and aversion. It is not a place, but a state of being where nothing is lacking and nothing is in excess. You no longer seek to change the world. You rest in harmony with it. The waves of joy and sorrow continue, but you are no longer tossed by them. You are the ocean, vast, serene, eternal. This is not detachment from life, but unity with it. You become life itself, expressing through form, disappearing into formlessness, yet never truly separate from the whole. Letting go, then, is not the end of anything. It is the beginning of freedom. It is the return to your true nature, spacious, compassionate, unbound. When you understand this, even the smallest acts of release become sacred. Every breath out becomes an offering. Every tear becomes purification. Every goodbye becomes a doorway to awakening. You begin to see that the universe is not taking from you, it is transforming you. And in that transformation, nothing is ever truly lost. If this teaching on letting go has helped you glimpse the peace that arises from surrendering to the flow of life, take a moment to deepen this journey. Subscribe to the channel and continue walking the path of Buddhist wisdom and liberation with us. Nothing is truly lost, the eternal presence beyond change. At the heart of all Buddhist wisdom lies a paradox that liberates the mind from its deepest fears. Though everything changes, nothing is ever truly lost. What appears to vanish simply transforms. What seems to end continues in another form. What feels like absence is only the presence of something new, unrecognized by the senses, but real to awareness. The Buddha's insight into impermanence was never meant to bring despair, but to reveal the deeper continuity beneath the shifting surface of existence. To truly understand impermanence is to awaken to eternity, not the eternity of unchanging forms, but the timelessness of being that underlies all transformation. When you lose someone you love, or when a chapter of life closes, it feels as though the world has torn something irreplaceable from you. The mind mourns the vanished form, the touch, the voice, the presence, but the heart, when it quiets, begins to sense something subtler. The one who left has not disappeared. Their essence lingers, in your breath, in your dreams, in the silence between moments. You feel them not as memory, but as presence. This is the deeper truth that Buddhism invites us to see. The forms of the world are transient, but the essence of existence is continuous. The same light shines through all forms. When one lamp goes out, the light still exists, illuminating elsewhere. Everything that exists is a manifestation of interbeing, the web of cause and effect, the intricate network of energy and consciousness that binds all things. When something ends, its energy does not vanish. It is absorbed, redistributed, reborn. The leaves that fall feed the roots. The rain that disappears into the earth rises again as vapor. The breath you release this moment will fill another's lungs tomorrow. Life is a sacred circulation, a ceaseless giving and receiving. The illusion of loss arises only when we fixate on one form and call it mine. But the truth is that nothing has ever truly belonged to us. Everything belongs to the flow. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are like dreams, bubbles, shadows, like dew or lightning, thus should they be contemplated." This teaching does not deny the beauty of life, it reveals its fragility. When we understand that forms are temporary, we stop grasping at them and begin to cherish them for what they are, fleeting expressions of the infinite. Nothing is lost because nothing is fixed. Each moment arises fresh, and in its arising, it contains the essence of all that came before. Every breath you take carries the echo of ancient forests, of oceans, of stars. You are not separate from anything that has ever been. You are the continuation of all things. In the stillness of meditation, this truth becomes more than a philosophy. It becomes a lived experience. When you sit in silence and observe the constant arising and passing of thoughts, you begin to see that the gap between one thought and the next is not empty. It is full of awareness. That awareness has never been born and can never die. It is the same awareness that the Buddha awakened to, the eternal presence that watches all things come and go without being touched. You are that awareness. You are not what you lose. You are the space in which loss and gain occur. When you see this, the fear of impermanence dissolves into awe. The realization that nothing is truly lost brings a profound shift in how we live. We no longer cling desperately to what we love, nor do we despair when life changes. We begin to trust the wisdom of the unfolding. When something leaves, we know it is making space for something new. When we lose a person, we realize that their love continues in the ripples they left behind. Their kindness lives in our gestures. Their wisdom lives in our choices. Their laughter echoes in our joy. They are not gone. They have become part of everything. In this way, nothing ever truly ends. It simply evolves. Even pain, when understood deeply, is not a punishment but a messenger. It shows us where we have confused the transient for the eternal. It invites us to release the illusion of possession. Every heartbreak, every loss, every disappointment becomes an opportunity to awaken to this deeper truth. When the Buddha spoke of dukkha, suffering, he did not present it as a hopeless condition, but as the beginning of understanding. Suffering points us toward the places where we still cling, where we still resist impermanence. When we stop fighting and allow change to unfold, pain becomes transformation. Through loss, the heart expands. Through impermanence, wisdom is born. Imagine the ocean again, vast, infinite, beyond measure. Upon its surface rise countless waves, each unique, each beautiful, each destined to fall. When a wave crashes and disappears, we say it has died. But the ocean knows there is no death, only movement. The water that formed one wave will form another. The pattern changes, but the essence, the water itself, remains. In the same way, the lives we live, the relationships we form, the worlds we build, are waves upon the ocean of consciousness. They rise, they fall, they dissolve, but the ocean never diminishes. You are that ocean. The losses you mourn are only the shifting of your own tides. This truth extends to every aspect of existence. The seasons change, but the cycle continues. The stars burn out, but their light travels across millennia, still touching new eyes long after their bodies are gone. In the same way, every act of love, every moment of compassion continues to move through the universe. When you speak kindly, that kindness ripples outward, influencing countless lives in ways you may never see. When you forgive, you free not only yourself, but the world around you. Energy never dies. It only changes form. In this way, the good we do is never lost. It becomes part of the eternal continuum of healing and awakening. To say that nothing is lost is also to say that everything matters. Every thought, every word, every action contributes to the great unfolding of existence. The Buddha taught that everything we do leaves an imprint, not in a moralistic sense of reward or punishment, but as a natural law of continuity. Karma is not fate, it is participation. The energy we generate continues, shaping future conditions. When you understand this, life becomes sacred. You begin to live with mindfulness, knowing that every moment is both an ending and a beginning, both a gift and a responsibility. There is also deep comfort in realizing that what we call death is not a disappearance but a return. The body returns to the elements, the mind dissolves into awareness, the essence merges back into the infinite. This understanding does not remove the sadness of parting, but it transforms it into reverence. To witness death is to witness the most profound expression of impermanence, the dissolution of one form into the boundless. It is not the end of life, but the continuation of life in another form. The Buddha taught that to contemplate death daily is to live fully. Because when we understand that everything passes, we stop wasting time on what does not matter and begin to love what does. Every moment of your life is part of this great circulation. The you that existed a year ago is already gone, replaced by new cells, new thoughts, new understanding, yet something remains, not the form, but the awareness behind it. This awareness is the thread that weaves all your lives together, not just across time, but across every experience. When you sit quietly and feel your breath, you are touching that thread, the same awareness that was present in the child you once were, in the ancestors before you, and in the countless beings yet to come. That awareness is what never dies. It is the still point in the turning world. From this understanding arises a profound peace, the peace of no longer searching for permanence in the impermanent. You begin to see that loss itself is an illusion. When a flower wilts, the fragrance remains in memory, in air, in soil. When a relationship ends, the lessons remain, shaping the soul. When youth fades, wisdom blossoms. Life is a constant exchange, and in that exchange, nothing disappears. Even grief is sacred, for it reveals how deeply we have loved. And that love, pure, selfless, beyond possession, is indestructible. It is the one thing that transcends impermanence, because it is not of form, but of essence. The Buddha's life itself was a living testament to this truth. When he left his palace, his wealth, and his family to seek enlightenment, he did not lose them. He transformed his relationship with them. He saw that clinging to the transient was the source of all suffering, and in releasing it, he found a love vast enough to encompass all beings. His awakening was not a rejection of the world, but a deep embrace of its impermanence. In his eyes, nothing was separate, nothing was wasted, nothing was lost. The same truth applies to our own lives. Every loss is an invitation to see beyond the surface, to recognize the eternal presence that pervades all change. In the quiet depths of awareness, beyond the noise of thought, there is a knowing that whispers, everything is as it should be. Every departure is part of arrival. Every disappearance is part of return. The mind cannot understand this because it sees only fragments, but the heart can feel it. When you rest in the heart, open, surrendered, present, you feel the pulse of life moving through all things. You know that you have never truly been separate from anything you loved. The love itself was the bridge, the thread of continuity that binds all existence. And that love, being timeless, it cannot be lost. This realization transforms the way we experience both joy and sorrow. You stop chasing the fleeting highs of life because you see they are temporary, and you stop fearing the lows because you see they too will pass. You find balance in the middle path, the Buddha's path, where you can hold both joy and sorrow in the same open awareness. You can grieve without despair, love without fear, and live without attachment. You become a witness to the dance of impermanence, participating fully yet clinging to nothing. In this way you discover the true freedom that the Buddha called liberation. To know that nothing is truly lost is to walk through life with gentleness. You become less harsh, less controlling, less desperate. You begin to see the sacredness in every fleeting moment. The sunrise that will never repeat, the smile that fades even as it appears, the breath that comes only once in this form. You realize that the beauty of life lies precisely in its transience. If things did not end, nothing new could begin. The impermanent gives rise to creativity, to compassion, to awakening. Every ending becomes a teacher, reminding you to love more deeply, to live more fully, to let go more gracefully. There is a story told in the Zen tradition about a monk who was asked what happens after death. He smiled and said, "I do not know." The student pressed him, "But you are a Zen master. Surely you understand the mystery of life and death." The monk replied, "Yes, but I am not dead yet." This humility reveals the essence of Buddhist wisdom, not claiming to know the unknowable, but resting peacefully in the flow of what is. When you no longer demand answers, you begin to experience truth directly. You realize that life and death are not opposites, but two sides of the same coin. When you no longer fear one, you begin to live the other fully. So when you lose something or someone dear, remember, nothing is gone, only transformed. The love you shared, the lessons you learned, the moments you lived, they continue reshaping the universe in ways unseen. The energy of what was has simply shifted its form, waiting to reappear in a new expression. Trust that flow. Trust that every loss is part of a larger balance. The heart that understands this no longer clings, no longer fears, no longer mourns endlessly. It grieves, it honors, it lets go, and it continues to love. Ultimately, to see that nothing is lost is to awaken to the eternal presence that has never left you. It is to discover that you are not a fleeting wave on the surface of life, but the ocean itself, vast, eternal, unbroken. Everything you have ever loved, everything you have ever lost, still lives within that ocean, not as separate forms, but as the same water. When you awaken to this truth, you no longer fear endings. You bow to them, for they are the gates through which eternity flows into time. You understand that every goodbye is the universe whispering, "Wait, you will see this again in another form, in another moment, in another life." This is the peace beyond understanding, the freedom the Buddha spoke of, where nothing clings, nothing is grasped, and yet everything is loved. The world continues to change, and you change with it. But within you remains the stillness that knows nothing is ever truly lost. If these words have helped you glimpse that eternal truth, that in impermanence there is not despair but peace, take a moment to stay connected to this journey of awakening. Subscribe to the channel and continue exploring with us the timeless Buddhist wisdom that leads from loss to liberation, from illusion to truth, from impermanence to eternal presence.